Today I'm going to be showing you how I make my adjustable bottoms. First thing that you'll need is a pattern. If you want to follow along exactly, I'll leave the link for that in the description. A ruler. This clear ruler works really well whenever we are cutting out our straps. Then we have our sewing machine here. I also use a zipper foot. A zipper foot is basically just a thinner foot for your sewing machine. Rotary cutter or polyester thread. You do want to make sure that your thread is matching your bikini bottoms if that's what you prefer. Our pattern that we cut out earlier, our fabric weights, some pins if you need them whenever you're sewing, fabric scissors, fabric here. For this video, I wanted to make the bottoms reversible. So I chose two different fabrics, but if you don't want it reversible, you can go ahead and just use one fabric. Here we have our serger with our elastic application serger foot, our clear elastic. Here we have our two 36-inch straps, and we're just going to place these to the side for now. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to do is we need to cut out a front and a back piece of this blue fabric, and then a front and a back piece of this plaid fabric. If you are making it all the same color, then you just want to make sure that you have two front pieces of your fabric and two back pieces of your fabric. Alright, let's get started. You always want to make sure that you fold your fabric along this side that says fold with the arrows pointing towards it. And you want to make sure that the greatest stretch of the fabric is going from side to side on your pattern. Alright, so as you can see, we have a front piece cut out of the plaid and a back piece cut out of the plaid. This is what they're going to look like. The front piece is always just a little bit smaller for this pattern, so that's how you could tell the difference between the two. I know that they look very similar. So you want to do the same thing with the other solid blue fabric. So I'll be right back. We have a front piece and a back piece of this plain blue, and a front piece and a back piece of this plaid color. So next we are just going to place the front and the backs together. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that right side is facing the right side. This is the right side of this fabric. So we're just going to flip it over. And this is how we're going to set this up before we serge this. We're going to serge this crotch line here without any elastic attached. And we're going to do the same for both of these. Make sure that the right side is touching the right side, and we are just going to serge the crotch and serge the crotch for this as well. Also, if at any point during this process you want to pin something down, then definitely do it. Line up your fabric with the edge. So as you can see, we have both of our crotch seams serged together. Looks good. We're going to place these to the side, and now we're going to grab our straps. We want to make sure that right side is facing right side. We're going to fold it over and serge along here with elastic attached. So I'm going to go ahead and add the elastic to the machine, and then we're just going to serge our two straps. So our next step is to turn these straps right side out with our loop turner. Here we have both of our straps done, and now we're going to move on and finish the rest of the bottoms here. So we have our two pieces here, and we're going to serge these together, but before we serge these together, we want to line these up so that everything matches up perfectly. We're gonna make sure that the right side is touching the right side, and you can double check that by looking at your seams here. So you want this to be seamless. So you want the seamless edge to match this seamless edge. So we're going to go ahead and flip this around. And you see how this is a little bit more than this? That's how you know this is a front piece and this piece right here is a back piece. Remember I said the front piece is a little bit smaller than the back piece. That's how you know that you just need to flip it around. And there you go, it should match up perfectly. So now we're going to serge along this edge with elastic attached, and we are going to serge along this edge with elastic attached. Once we are done with that, we are going to serge along this edge and this edge without any elastic attached. And as you can see here, we are all finished with serging the sides together. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to cut off these corners. Usually I cut off just enough so there's a hole there. You don't want to make it too big because remember we're going to make a tunnel for the strap to go through. You just want to make it just large enough so that a strap could fit in. So I'll show you. You see how small that was? Just small enough so that you could fit a strap in there. And I always go a little bit smaller than I think I should cut because sometimes whenever you do end up cutting it, the hole ends up bigger. It's better to make the hole a little bit smaller and then cut it bigger if you need to. But I always keep it really small, and I do that on all four sides. So that's what I'm going to do now. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to create a hole so that we could flip these inside out. Since we are going to be running a string through here, I'm going to put the hole on the side. I still prefer to put it in the back because I feel like in the back will be less noticeable. I go ahead and put the hole about right here. Really, you only need it large enough so that you could flip your suit right side out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And ideally you would want to do it with a seam ripper, but I still have not found my seam ripper, so I'm going to do it with my scissors. Just remember that you don't want to cut the fabric and you don't want to cut the elastic. So just focus on cutting the string, and we're going to get started on that right now. With this method of creating these adjustable bottoms, what I like to do is I like to backstitch a few times on this side and on this side. And that's just a precaution to make sure that none of this serge part comes undone. So I'm going to do that right now, and I'm going to do that on all four corners where I cut the hole. Alright, so we have our sewing machine ready. And remember, I do use a zipper foot, and that just allows me to see as well as get closer to this edge here. Alright, so this is what that's going to look like. You see I backstitched here a few times and I backstitched here a few times. I want to get as close as I can to this edge because you don't want it to come undone. But also you don't have to be perfect here. And then we're going to do that for all four sides. Also, one other thing that I do want to point out is that you don't really want to go past this serge line whenever you're sewing, because then that's going to interfere and you're going to see it whenever you turn your suit right side out. So always keep it on this line and back. Alright, now that we've finished that, we're just going to turn our bottoms right side out using the hole that we created earlier. And one thing I really like about this method of creating these adjustable bottoms is whenever you flip this right side out, you almost can't even tell that there's a hole here. And I like that because that means that when you put the strap through, it's going to hold nice and tight whenever you are adjusting it. So what we're going to do is, on this side, and this side. We're going to be creating a tunnel for our strap to go through. I don't know if you could see here, but if you can't see it, you want to feel it. There is kind of like a seam, a 1/4 inch seam in here from when we serged and when we flipped our bottoms right side out. So what I like to do is I will place my zipper foot right next to that edge to where it's touching it, and I'm going to sew along this side. Of course, in the beginning and in the end, I want to back stitch to make sure that this stitch doesn't come undone. But the whole time that I'm sewing it, I'm going to keep my zipper foot basically pressed up against this seamed edge here. So it should be about here, about a 1/4 inch, and I'm just going to sew along here, and that's going to give us our tunnel. And if you don't have a zipper foot, just try to keep it at a 1/4 inch wide. So I'm going to start doing that now. So as you can see here, I was able to sew. I started here, I was able to sew along here, and I was able to finish up here. I backstitched here. But if you ever want to go back and get this, because I know it's difficult to start right here on the edge with all of this thick fabric, I'll just go back here and I will just put it back in the sewing machine, and I'll just sew back this way so that I could backstitch all the way to the edge here. So that's what I'm going to do now. So as you can see now, it's a continued line from where we left off. So now we have a 1/4 inch tunnel all the way to the other side. And we just do this same thing to the other side. So our next step is to just put the strings through the tunnels. Since we have, like I mentioned before, we have a extremely small hole here, I basically will force my loop turner through this side and then through the other side and pull my strap through that way. It might be a little tough, it's a little tight, but I really like my adjustable bottoms to have a nice tight hold on the strap. So I'll show you exactly what I mean, and we're going to do that for both sides. I have my loop turner here, and we have the straps here. So I'm going to take my loop turner and you just kind of push it through, and then I'm going to go all the way to the other side. And this is what I mean, it might be a little tough to find that hole. Found the hole. And now we're just going to pull our strap through. And it might seem a little bit difficult at first, but you do want to force it through. And that's why we sewed the insides of this before we even flip this right side out. And you see how tight that hold is? That's what you want. You want to make sure that whenever someone adjusts this, it stays where they adjust it. So that's why I like to have the tunnel nice and tight, nice and small. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing for the next side. So now we are just going to tie the ends of these straps. And just cut off the excess. And we are going to do that on all of the sides of the straps. Basically just take a hand sewing needle and sew this shut, or you can use your sewing machine and just sew a clean line right here over this hole, making sure to grab all of the layers, and that'll close up everything for you, and your bottoms will be completely done after that. Alright, I hope that you enjoyed my tutorial on how I make my adjustable reversible bottoms, and I hope that you love them. If you have any questions, just let me know in the comments below. And until next time, I will see you later.